Hi, it's Tara. Today I'm talking about boundaries. Not so much what they are, how to set them, why they're important, because there's a lot of information out there about that, which I think is great. I think it's cool that we're starting to pay attention to our responsibility and accountability for teaching people how to treat us, and that's what boundaries do. So I think that's really important. It all comes on the foundation of the inner work that you've done to this point, which is working on your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-worth, that you're setting boundaries not because it's something popular or important to do, but you're setting boundaries because you really feel valuable enough to set them. Like, this is important to you, that you have people in your life that treat you well, because that reflects on the value that you have within yourself. So that's really important. And that's the first step in any of this work with boundaries that you need to consider is, have you done your work first? On top of that foundation, what I'm talking about today really are the mistakes that you can make when it comes to setting boundaries. This is something that we need to be taught. We learn by trial and error, and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to need practice to do it. So here are some things to consider. The first thing is, try and set your boundaries in advance. Consider the relationships that you have in your life right now and the ones where people aren't treating you quite as well as you'd like to be treated. If you're a doormat, if you're being taken advantage of, these are the areas you want to focus on. And then you want to think intentionally about what boundaries you need to set with those people. You don't want to set boundaries from a high reactivity, emotionally intense place. You want to come from a really grounded place so that you'll be taken seriously, but that your boundaries are thoughtful and not reactive. The worst mistake I ever made, because I was never good at setting boundaries, but when I started setting boundaries, I would set them when things were intense, from an emotionally reactive place. And then it either felt like I had set a boundary that I couldn't come back from but maybe needed to, or that they just were inappropriate. They didn't matter to me. They were just kind of thrown out there. So really come from a grounded, intentional place, that you're proactive and you're able to communicate clearly why it's important to you because you've thought about it. Be thoughtful about this. The second mistake can be setting boundaries that are inflexible and permanent, or too flexible and temporary. So we have all those people where we've tried to set boundaries and then they've apologized and said they're never going to do it again, and we allow them back into our lives, and then they do this and they do this repeatedly because the boundary isn't firm enough. It's too flimsy. They continue to walk all over us because that's what they know that they can do. So these are the people you need to set bigger boundaries with, more permanent boundaries, because they're intentionally manipulating you. So be aware of that, and be aware of the relationships where you've done that in the past and the ones that you don't want to do that in the future. The other extreme is setting boundaries that are inflexible and permanent, which means you've cut people out of your life altogether. Consider the context that you're setting boundaries in. Are you setting boundaries because of an event? Is it a singular event? Or is it the character of a person? If it's the character of a person and they're repeatedly injuring you or bowling down your boundaries, you want to disconnect from them permanently. They don't respect you. You don't need them in your life. On the other hand, we can set these really big boundaries, big, permanent, inflexible boundaries that keep people out of our lives, that really are doing the work, are genuine or apologetic. They're not intentionally out to hurt us. In fact, they're trying to make repairs, and we've set this big boundary out that allows for no forgiveness, that allows no room for repentance or for them to regain a role or earn a role in our lives, and that has huge regret. That was my biggest mistake in my biggest boundary experiment, was that I set a boundary that was permanent and inflexible for somebody I really cared about, that was really trying to come back into my life and make amends, and I wasn't allowing it. And so be careful where you're stubborn. Place your stubbornness where it belongs for people that have poor character, that are out to hurt you, where the intention is to use you and hurt you and manipulate you. Set different boundaries that maybe are more flexible with others that have some value in your life and good character. Always consider, too, intent. That's really important. Where's the intent there? And also know what your deal breakers are, because there are some things where it's a one-shot deal, one strike and you're out, and that's the deal breaker of my life. And even if I really love you, you do this and you can't be a part of my life anymore. Know what your deal breakers are so that you're prepared for them in advance. The last mistake that people make is to really think that once you start this pattern, this is a new habit for you. Once you set your first boundary, it's just going to be a cakewalk from there, and that people are magically going to respond and respect you, and it's going to be fairy tales in Wonderland, and it's not. You're doing this for the first time, but you have people in your life that aren't used to this from you. They're not used to you setting boundaries in your life, and so you're going to have to train them how to teach you differently if you want them to treat you differently. You're going to set boundaries. You're going to make sure they matter to you. You're going to be selective and specific and communicate them well because you're going to be thoughtful and grounded. You're also going to have to reinforce them because people don't learn with a one-shot lesson, just like you don't. So you're going to have to practice and you're going to have to reinforce them. If it goes on as a pattern, then you know what to do with it. But allow for people's learning curve because you're changing and you're going to have to show them how you want them to be in your life. And hopefully you have people that respect you and care about you enough that they're going to be able to learn along with you. What you're going to get is a circle of influence in your life of people that treat you well because that's what you've told them that you deserve, because that's what you're allowing in your life, and you won't settle for anything less. It's really important that you get to that place. Consider these mistakes before you start going in this area. Really be intentional, grounded, thoughtful, flexible when necessary, forgiving when necessary. Do your own work first. You always have to start there. This is a good place to build on and practice in your life too. I hope you're well, and I'll see you next time.